into it, I will go through what the kind of overall safety issues are with sailing. Difficult to get information on that, and talk a little bit about how that influences our practice. And the practices are pretty simple. So, key thing is, what is just sailing? Well, first thing to say is that what you're going to be engaged in is organized and regulated boating. That's what we do. We organize ourselves under the auspices of Skerries Sailing Club. And on the ISA, we put in safety procedures. So I call that organized and regular sailing. It's what happens in Skerries every Wednesday and every Sundays and occasional Saturdays. And it's what we do under Just Sailing. So it's organized, and I'll exemplify just exactly what that is in the next 2 slides. We're safe. It is a very safe sport. It's exceptionally safe sport. And as I said, I'll go through some details to try and exemplify why that is. It's made safe by how we design the JS program. It's made safe by the way we organize it. It's made safe by the procedures. We mean both actual requirements and best practice, and the behaviors when we execute. So it's very much, excuse me while I put this down. It's very much well designed, well thought out. We've been doing it for 4 years now under the auspices of the club, and it's pretty straightforward. A kind of fundamental principle of sailing is that the decision to go afloat for individuals and organisers is based on a kind of combination of self-responsibility and risk assessment. And that's what we've done in the past. The kind of key thing is, though, I need to always emphasize, and in fact it's emphasized whether you're racing in normal racing or just sailing, the person responsible for your safety is you. That is the key. You are responsible for your safety. We will carry out a general assessment of the condition and what's available, but only you know your readiness. Only you know your competence, your capabilities, your wellness. We'll advise and we'll always encourage, but ultimately going on the water is a decision you will make. Always remember that. It's not a decision that Jerry will make, it's not a decision Helen will make or I will make. You will make that decision. We will talk to you and encourage you, but you must do it. So when you're standing on the top of the slip and you need to be confident that you will return in about 2 hours, probably wet, maybe slightly traumatized, don't know, but having had a good experience, and you'll be ready for coffee. We want to make sure you go out and you come back and you feel good about that. Let me tell you some of the reasons why I think safety is why just say why sailing, organized sailing is so safe. I try to get some facts and figures about accidents at sea. It's quite difficult, particularly for Ireland. This is the Irish Water Association. I got some data for 2017, and this is about the height of what it could get, the number of people by gender, whether it was accident or suicide or undetermined, but that's about it. I couldn't get any prior activity data, so I went off looking for data elsewhere, and ultimately I was able to get some information from the US Coast Guard. They have lots of data, everything, and it speaks this particular scene here. And don't worry about too much detail on it. It's really just kind of the key points I'll point out. They call it activity. Sailing itself is not actually called out, but the closest is this one, boating at the very top here somewhere here. But if you look down at some of the reasons of accidents occurring, fish rocking, rescue, I'm not quite sure why rescue, non-aquatic transfer, I'm not quite sure what it is, somebody fell off a bus or something, or jumped in, fishing, falling, diving, boating, which includes all types of boating, and I'll come back to that, bathing, unknown watercraft, swimming and recreation. So lots of reasons, but sailing isn't really in there. You cannot find sailing, and they don't break it down for sailing as a sport. When you read through the data, and I will go of their findings, you get the impression that motorboating is the real seems to be where a lot of accidents occur, motorized motorized events. And the impression you get is that they're all out doing this sort of thing, and it's whoopee time. You get the impression when you're on the data. I should say very quickly, of course, for the avoidance of any doubt, this is not just sailing. Well, unless Helen's coffee is laced, but I doubt that, actually. That was a joke. When you analyse what are the main causes of fatal and near fatal accidents in that, the Coast Guard give you some interesting data based on a 2-year period. 633 deaths. A lot of people dying swimming in the US or dying in the water. They come up with key reasons of why people are get injured or die in water. They said where the cause of death was known, 77% of fatal boating victims drowned. And of those people who drowned, 84% were not wearing a life jacket. So kind of key point there is that we will always wear a life jacket, not just in just sailing. It's a mandatory requirement of Skerries Sailing Club. Must be worn at all times. It's incredible that people will, well, maybe they're not all, certainly not all sailing, people in leisure, in recreational. This, of course, is recreational as opposed to being involved in commercial or sailing or whatever. So not wearing a life jacket. So rule number 2 is wear a life jacket. You don't go in the water unless you're wearing it at all times. The other contributory factor they found was that alcohol was a known contributory factor in fatal boating accidents. And they say, of course, it influences balance, coordination, etc. It impairs your ability to actually manage and look after a craft. That also applies, by the way, to people are taking drugs. And even if you're on prescription drugs or whatever, you need to keep an eye out that you don't have dizziness or anything like that. Obviously, so drugs or alcohol is a big no-no going on the water. I left this one in, actually. Again, it was more for the most, but not knowing how to. 74% of the deaths occurred in boats where the operator did not receive any training or instruction. Well, hopefully, we'll have a helmsman for people who aren't comfortable in the boats for the first long period until they're ready to take over. I left this next one in because it'll come up again later on when I talk about the ribs. Something like 27 people died after being struck by the propeller. It happened last time, I think, in Ireland, 2 or 3 years ago down in Cork, where a gentleman wasn't wearing what they call a kill cord, and I'll explain that later on. Fell out of the boat, the engine kept running and damaged the person severely. So it's a real big no-no, and you'll see that later on. The other things that they picked out of their analysis was operator inattention and improper lookout. Okay, the rest were related to maybe motorboats, experience, machine failure, etc. But even on a sailing boat, going at not too high speed, you still need to watch out you don't hit something. Quite often people, and I've seen this a few times when we go just sailing, we get distracted. We're looking at birds, you're looking at the nice coastline or whatever, and suddenly some boat's zooming on top of you and you're going to have a hit. Now, that generally won't be too severe, but watching out, paying attention, understanding what's happening is really key. The other one they put down is where data was known, the vessel types. Now this kind of puts this data in perspective, is that the vessel types with the highest percentage of deaths were motorboats, because they kept crashing or into each other or whatever, kayaks, canoes. Sailing didn't get called out. Again, organized and regulated sailing, and we really, I'm emphasizing the point, it's a very safe sport. We don't lose people, or very rarely lose people in that. But we still need to learn from some of the things that happen. And the 2 main things there we take out in this area is always life jacket, always have your full senses not impaired by any either drug or liquid or whatever, etc. And pay attention. Pay attention when you're sailing. Be on top of your game. So some good takeaways on that. So what I'm really probably saying is that when we look for accidents or look for data, sailing is a very, very safe sport. Really, despite giving all the data about other aspects of it, sailing per se is a safe sport. In over, I know what I did, maybe 55 years on the water from time to time, I've never come across a serious accident. People bang their heads occasionally off the boom and things like that, but nothing ever of any serious nature, which is good to hear. So let me tell you about some of the procedures and things the club will put into place, and just sailing will put into place to make sure that it is a safe experience for you. The primary rescue vehicle is a rigid inflatable boat. We have something like 5 of these in Skerries Sailing Club, along with 2 punts. They're used in appropriate numbers for safety and race management in that order. They're always there for safety, and then they're for race management as well. As I said, we have always put one out, and I'll come back to this every time we have. It must be one on the water. The driver in every case in this club must have and will have an ISA powerboat certificate. That's a particular 2-day course that they must have attended, passed a small exam at the end of it, and then done something like 20 hours of on the water under supervision. So they're quite competent about what they can do or can't do, and how they can do it, and how they can handle those boats. So the helm must always be that. They're all volunteers like yourselves, will be volunteers like yourselves, and we have a good record in this area. There's always 2 people on board, a driver and a helper who is with them. The helper doesn't have to be certified, but the driver will always be certified. We'll always have one on the water for just sailing. The basic rule will be, and I'll repeat it again later, is that when you're launching, when we are launching, you cannot launch a sailboat until one rib is in the water waiting for you. So you must be able to see at the top of the slip before you launch, there is a rib in the water covering you. That's key, doing that. You'll see here, Liam, it was on the other side, but on this side, you see Liam McMahon has a ripcord here. You'll see it here. If he were to fall out or whatever, sorry, kill cord. What did I say? Anyway, a kill cord. So there it is there. If he were to fall out of the boat, it would turn off the engine. And that's absolutely vital. We're always having to police that with people, make sure the kill cord is in and attached. When these guys are attending to distressed boats, and that's what we call them on the water, their job is to go to a distressed boat and check it out. They have a set of priorities when they go to a boat that's capsized or turned upside down or whatever it is. And that priority is, number 1, is the life and limb of themselves. They must make sure that their lives and limbs are not under any way under threat. They rarely are, of course. The second thing is they're concerned with the life and limb of the distressed boat crew. They're only concerned about you and your crew and your health and well-being. The physical distressed boat or equipment, that's not their priority. They don't care about that. They will help if they can and if they have the time. The priorities in terms of, this often causes problems to people. I want to rescue my boat, or I'm not leaving my boat if you rescue me. Their priority is the people first. They're not allowed actually at a scene of a rescue. The helm, the certified driver, he can make any decision to rescue people. He can call more support. He can call for the the RNLI. Okay, I'm getting a signal there. Is everybody still hearing me?
Yeah.
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 Loud and clear.
I got it. Okay, he makes the decisions at the distress boat. He's the authority. With respect to life and limb, he will make any call he needs. If he needs to rescue a boat, if the helmsman says, "Can you please tow my boat?" That's not actually his decision. That's the decision of the race officer, because allowing him to rescue a boat or pull a boat off the course incapacitates the general safety capability on the water, because he's now out of circulation. So there's kind of, again, a structure in it as to who can do what and how things work. Um, so it's well thought through as such. This is another rib here. They will always assess the situation when they come to a distressed boat and look at what's going to happen. They will assess it, and unless immediate help is required, they'll monitor what you're doing and more importantly, the length of time you're in the water. That's their job. They're key at doing that. Here's a great example. I don't know whether Liam is online or not, but this is our current Commodore. It capsized one day. I can't remember the event. But he's in the water here. He's gone turtle, as you can see. And the rib typically will give you about 20 minutes. It's up to the people themselves to say how conditioned they're in, but typically they may not interfere directly for about 20 minutes. The thing is, the point we say is that they're on standby. It's a little out of focus in the picture here, but they're sitting there watching the guys. Are you okay, guys? Yes, we're okay. We're going to try and right the boat. They're watching and waiting for them to see how they get on with that. But they're particularly interested in how long you're in the water, because hypothermia can set in quite easily. They also have the capability, by the way, to escalate. If they think the problem is worse and they can't handle it, they can escalate. They can call the club hunt out if it's available in the harbour to assist, or they can call the RNLI out if they need to assist. But here are the two guys. It's Liam O'Callaghan and I think that's Fiona Cabot. Cabot, I think it is, in the water there. I think she's trying to pull the boat round into the Jerry to pull the boat into the wind. I'm not sure what he's doing, but eventually, anyway, Liam gets up on top of the boat and is about hopefully pull it over. Well, he did pull it over in that case. And Fiona has already pulled it round into the wind, and they're getting ready to ride the boat. So key issue there is they'll attend, they'll ask you how you're going. If they feel that you're not up to it or you're taking far too long, they'll just say, get back into it. They'll take you and put you into the rib. And they won't worry about your boat, I'm afraid. But they will probably look for some help. So kind of the key things there I want to summarize in terms, and I'm doing this at a kind of highish level. I don't want to go into too much of it because we'll repeat a lot of stuff later on in the weekend, go through it. First thing that I really wanted to emphasize there was it's your responsibility to decide if you can go underwater. You need to think that through, and we'll help you and we'll encourage you, but ultimately your ability to make that decision, nobody else's. Life jackets, as I've said, take them, wear them. I always suggest to people, if you've never been in the water with your life jacket, and it's an unusual sensation actually to be in the water, in deep water, with a life jacket on, or after you say fall in. You're actually usually well buoyed up, depending on what clothing you're wearing. I always suggest to people that, in fact, what they should do before the season, or maybe early part of the season, is put your life jacket on, put the normal clothes on, and go for a swim and see what it's like. Or better still, when we're coming in someday, when you're about 20 meters offshore, if it's a day, jump off the boat and try and swim in for the last thing. It's a different sensation and feeling. Quite often, unless you've got a good, particularly tight buoyancy aid and maybe a wetsuit or whatever, it's quite difficult to swim. But try it and get to know the sensation. One thing, by the way, I didn't mention there was, and it was emphasised in Liam and Fiona with their boat, you always stay with your boat. If you do capsize, you must always stay with. There's no question of ever leaving. Stay with the boat. That's where the rescue expect to find you there. They don't find you there, they're really get excited and they escalate immediately. But take your life jacket or buoyancy aid and get to know what it's like in the water. Take the kids out or the grandkids out and have a look at it. As I said, no alcohol and drugs. If you're on prescription medication, let's have a chat about it and see if that causes any problem. Mostly it shouldn't. Rescue, when we're going out, you never go out unless the rescue is active in the water. Unless you can see a rib on the water, this is for just sailing now and for club racing. If you go out by yourself, that's a different story. Um, weather, we'll generally make the decisions. Jerry, myself, Helen, will talk about on the particular day for just saying what's this like and the sea. We won't go out if it's 4 or higher. We'll go out if it's 4 or lower, but it does depend on wind direction. It's something that you should try and get used to when you walk around the harbour, is to look at where the wind is coming from and what it's doing to the sea. If the wind, most of the time in Skerries, it will come from the southwest. So it comes across land and has very little time to chop up the sea or put swells in the sea. But it will do it if it comes from the north or northeast or northwest and it's been running for a while. You will see large swells. There were large swells in recent days if you're around there, even though the wind wasn't high. Sometimes it wasn't high. So it's very much we go out saying depending on what's going to happen, what's happening and what's going to happen. And you heard Jerry talk about Windgur. That's my favorite one. It's pretty reliable. We look at that for 2 hours out. It gives us a very good description of what's going to happen. So always look at that one, actually. Communications, this really is just an add-on. It's that if you go sailing by yourself, which in time you will, I'm sure, and you may go at a time when club is not operational, when there's no in the water, we don't have ribs in the water all the time, pumps in the water all the time. So if you go out sailing by yourself, and Terry's a great fan of this, tell somebody. Just tell somebody, tell your partner, tell somebody on the shore that's around or going to be around. Just say, I'm going from here to Balbriggan and I'm coming back and expecting back in 3 hours. They may not follow you up, but at least they'll have known where you are. The cold, beware of the cold. You can get a cold water shock can occur in less than 15 degrees. Beware of the cold. My very last slide, actually, well, almost last slide, is in the yard, and we'll do practice this in any detail. But when we rig in the yard, one of the things I always want to point to people is make sure you put the bungs in the boats. Please put the bungs in the boats. We have gone to the water and not put bungs in boats. We'll explain that in more detail. At the top of the slip, and do this when you walk around the head sometimes, ask yourself, how will I leave the harbour? Really very difficult depending where the wind is coming from, particularly in summer when there's lots of moorings in the harbour. It's something that we need to get practice at. But again, I'm not going to go to it. The other warning down there is the slip. The danger is in the name. It can be slippy. We will, if the Fingal County Council don't get it cleaned, we will get it cleaned, although they should be getting it cleaned. So the last thing basically is be safe. Previous times we were not as conscious of safety. We weren't as regulated. In fact, this gentleman here, as you can see, is leaving Skerries Harbour, heading down the bay, no life jacket, beer in his hand, a definite leisure sailor. This is a family joke because this is my dad, and you don't do what he was doing. Guys, that's it, I finished.
Okay, Kieran, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kieran.
Very
comprehensive.
comprehensive.
Very interesting. Very good. Thank you.